Is it doing it yet?
There
Okay.
you go.
Oh yeah, we're here. We're live. What's up, everyone? My name is William Wofford here, and I'm here with my friends Marie Brownhill and Roy. Roy, what's your last name again?
Antenna.
Thank,
Santana.
thank you, thank you, Santana. Okay, because I was trying to avoid saying Saitama because I love One Punch Man. I don't know if you know that anime, but I like it. He just punches one thing and then boom, like I'll put him up against Superman any day of the week.
However, we're back to the issue at hand.
Yes, the issue at hand is another bald headed man that we know whose name just happens to be Picard. Boy, and he looked great in a tux for today's episode. So we're actually going over season 2, episode 6 of Star Trek Picard called 2 of 1, which, if you're a Trekkie, it's actually a very fitting name for where this story is going. And there's a lot of buildup, there's a lot of background, and we have loads to talk about. But first, we're going to get into our intro. Thank you to that one person who just happens to be coming on. Don't know who you are, but yeah, leave a comment below. And let's do this.
What's up, Trekkies? It's your boy Will Wofford here with Trekker's Delight, a Star Trek-inspired podcast. Before we get started, we're going to give away $100, so make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel where we will announce the lucky winner every single week. Now, welcome to Trekker's Delight.
I won't lie to you. That intro gives me chills every time. It just does.
I mean, you did an amazing job, my friend.
Well, it's not to sound like self-centered or egotistical. It's just like, yo, that was kind of cool. Like, anyway, oh my gosh, what an episode that we have here today. All right. Who wants to do a brief summary? And if I do it, I promise Marie just put me on a timer and I will try to go by it this time. Because if you know me, I'm notorious for dragging on stories and getting sidetracked. Sorry. I love you.
Oh my
Case in
god.
point,
So,
who wants to do the summary?
Well, most of the episode I watched while in the car, in traffic, talking to people
fair enough.
on my phone, and so hopefully I got it.
Right.
So this week is what I'm going to call Picard's 11, right? Because it picks up exactly where Fly Me to the Moon left off. And, Agnes is sitting, trying to hack the Gala's systems. And we discover that she is, in fact, partially possessed by the Borg Queen. And as we find out later in the episode, she did that on purpose. Because that's a thing. That's a thing that happens. So the Borg Queen spends the rest of the episodes more or less basically trying to seduce Agnes into doing various bad idea things, up to and including the non-bad idea of having Agnes Jurati sing as a distraction so that Picard could then attempt to rescue Renee Picard from her own doubts and also from Adam Sung, whom Q has tapped to kill, stop something. Renee Picard from getting on the Europa mission. Everything's going hunky-dory. It's all great until Adam Sung decides that he's going to take a swipe with his vehicle at Rene Picard. Our Picard shoves her away and he takes the hit and ends up in a comatose state. We'll get to that in a second. Meanwhile, Kore Sung has discovered that her father has been up to no good. Remember last episode, she was asking him about her mother? Yeah, don't think she has a mother. Don't think she has a mother at all, because it turns out that Sung has been building his children from scratch. And Kore is the last in a very long line of little girls who have perished based off of, errors in their genetic programming. Which is kind of terrifying when you get right down to it. So back to Picard. So Rene Picard seems to be going all right. She's decided she feels much better about life and she's going to get back on the Europa mission. Well, Picard, however, is now in this comatose state. They take him to Rios's friend Teresa, who basically is like, look, he's all fine and dandy. Don't really know why he's not waking up. So the episode ends with everyone trying to figure out if, they're going to let Talon into Picard's head in order to hack his memory. The last shot we see, however, is Agnes Jurati walking barefoot throughout San Francisco. Or is it Agnes Jurati? Because it appears that the Borg Queen has been able to use Agnes's endorphins to take control over their shared body. And that's where we are.
Well, now we know Alison Pill was a big Pat Benatar fan. That was pretty good. She rocked it.
She did, man. She did. I remember, she was pretty fantastic in Scott Pilgrim, which also involved a fair amount of musical issues because she was the drummer in the band.
Ah, didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. So that was pretty fantastic. That red dress is fantastic that they have her in, which, by the way, I have mentioned this before, but I legitimately think that this is meant to be a Battlestar Galactica reference, because not necessarily because the dress looks like the one that Tricia Helfer wore, but the silhouette, the red, the blonde, all of it looks very, very much like number 6. And now we have Agnes Jurati potentially being taken over by the Star Trek version of a toaster.
I'm still stuck on the Star Trek version of a toaster.
So toaster is a fandom slang term for Cylons, which were lifelike robots that were trying to take over and eliminate humanity.
Right. The brave little toaster is what I
Not so much. Not so much. Also, you're not old enough to watch that, so hush.
I am just like, Oh,
so what do we think, guys? Like, how do we feel about, first off, Kore Sung not so much being I hate to say natural born human, because I'm pretty sure that she is in fact completely human. I don't think because he doesn't have access to anything else. But she is very much potentially one of the first augments.
Yeah, I think it's nice to look at the heritage, I guess, of the Sung legacy, and it seems that obviously it took 200 some odd years for him to perfect the Robo Kids, that he's been trying to create all the way to the present day Picard, like in season 1. But I'm not sure how Q was fitting into that and what he was trying to do. Were we really trying to stop Picard from going to space, meaning his great grandmother, whoever she is, or help her get into space? I'm not sure. Did we ever figure that out?
Well, apparently Sung's mission that is given to him by Q is that he has to stop Rene Picard from getting on that ship.
The obstacle. He called it an obstacle. Right.
And he's apparently also more than welcome to remove, our Picard as an obstacle as well.
Right.
And the fact that our Q is willing to sanction the death of our Picard means that even though we've already seen it, but it's definitely a red flag to let you know that even Q himself has gone off the rails. Q in my opinion, was never exactly a villain. I never knew why he was portrayed as one. I always viewed him as a childish god. He never struck me as a villain. And his son literally acted the same childish way down to the same actions. Like that iconic scene where Q told in his real life son, "Don't provoke the Borg," when you were literally the one that flung the Enterprise into the Delta Quadrant for the first time. Thanks a lot. All of that. So now I can see where John Delancey was talking about when he said this is not the same Q we knew. This Q is a villain, and villains usually have a goal out of desperation, and it is clear that Q is desperate for something, and I think it might be his mortality, or I don't know, and that's probably the big secret. Like, what is going on? What is driving you insane? But right now, as of this current episode, we're seeing that the plot point is actually Girardi and the Queen. Like, that's the title was named after them. Even.
Right, because that's a play on a Borg designation.
Yes, absolutely. What do you guys think about the episode?
Maybe it's redemption. Maybe Q is trying to get some sort of redemption. If he messes with the timeline, then he never meets Picard, in the TNG era, then he doesn't get in trouble with the continuum. So if he wipes out that whole thing where he never met Picard, then he's not in trouble anymore, and he can go back to being happy. He must be in some sort of punishment or something. That's why they took away his powers. Seems they've taken his powers away. So I think it's redemption for him. That's just a guess.
I've been kind of kicking this around. What if Renee Picard is a red herring? What if she's there to sort of distract Picard? Because Q knows something's going on with him, like a different Q knows something's going on with him, and so the best thing he can think of is to, like, his well self is to bring his old buddy Picard back into the past and try to fix this problem, whereas a different version of Q that's kind of going a little bit bananas is actively trying to derail the timeline. And so my question here is, what if it's not so much Renee Picard so much as it is the Soongs, because we know the Soongs are necessary because they are some of, like, that family ends up being some of the architects of the Eugenics Wars, and we know we have to go through the Eugenics Wars in order to secure the future Federation. So wouldn't it be kind of interesting if by saving Corey, if that's in fact what he does, if by saving Corey he stops the Eugenics Wars and mankind never has to mature the same way it would with the Eugenics Wars?
I actually have a question about the Eugenics Wars. It's been on my mind, and I'm sure a lot of people have thought it through. Now, I haven't actually seen
Space Need.
Right, thank you. Well, I know of it. And I've seen shots of it and know enough of it to know Khan's history. But my Trek understanding is that the Eugenics Wars happened in the late 1990s, and that's what happened. That's what ended up being. I saw in the previous episode where this council was speaking about eugenics, like, according to this accord, we cannot do this, we cannot allow that. Which gives me a hint that there might have been some sort of undertaking or war, but the way the story is progressing is making it seem like a war is coming. Like, what if World War III is the Eugenics Wars? But we've already confirmed in our last conversation that the Eugenics Wars and World War III are two different things, according to lore.
Right.
So where is this war? Marie, do you have any thoughts on it, or any clues of what it might be? Because it does stand to reason that the Soongs, which kind of explains Khan's name or version of his last name, it explains how this Eugenics Wars and how this whole thing even happened. But I want to know, when did it happen? Does that make any sense? It does.
So according to both Space Heat and Borderland, it was a series of conflicts fought on Earth between 1992 and 1996. with the result of a scientific attempt to improve the human race through selective breeding and genetic engineering.
Right. So it did happen.
I'm thinking that we're getting a bit of a retcon here.
A retcon?
Mm-hmm. Because it's pretty clear that in 2024, there have been no eugenics wars.
You think something might have changed?
I do.
I mean,
they did mention something called the Shenzhen Convention.
No.
Which I'm not entirely certain that we know anything about. Like, I don't think there's anything that concretely ties it to the eugenics wars yet.
Yeah, because I'm not quite sure. And it stands to reason how the timeline would change, given how many times we done went back into the past. And, because we've learned that timeline from the original series. And how many times in TNG have we gone back into the past and screwed it up? Like, so I'm just saying,
Voyager, Deep Space Nine.
Oh, the list goes on and on and on.
I mean, time travel is not an uncommon story convention in Trek. It's just not. But I do wonder, actually, because a lot of what what Sung is doing with these children that he's creating, a lot of it really seems to be aiming toward this genetic engineering, this kind of situation that could, if Q either gets involved or doesn't get involved, could result in the development of the first augments. And we could potentially get that could potentially be, the seed that actually starts the progress that's going to result in continuity and Sing. It's just that, it's happening later in Trek Continuum now than it necessarily did. I noticed they're being really careful, at least in these first 6 episodes, not to mention the eugenics wars.
Because they know that we know.
Right. And they know that we're going to get there too soon if we think about that too much, because eugenics was, creating these new beings. And that's what it sounds like Sung is doing. He's not creating robots like the TNG Sung did. He's creating them genetically.
From scratch.
No, Adam Sung is very much closer to the Sung that we see in Enterprise. Right. Not, Dr. Sung.
Yeah, he's making test tube kids, basically.
Because I think the Sung that we saw in Enterprise might be his grandson.
I don't know. I
mean, we've learned, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see the same thing in season 3 of Picard. Like, we're going to see some Sung, because Brent Spiner made it perfectly clear that season 1 was the last time he would play as Data.
Yeah, I mean, and now he's just transitioning into the family.
Yeah.
I got to tell you guys, like, that's some strong genetics right there.
I know, and all the fathers look almost identical.
I know, man. Like, it's kind of amazing.
Like,
so I read down a little further, and these breed of super actually were called augments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they actually use supermodels to cast them. Well, the 2 guys anyway. The one that ended up dying, he was a supermodel. He was hot. I remember him. I was a teenager and I looked this stuff up. I was like, oh my God, he's cute. And I was like, oh, I get it. Superhuman, supermodel. Gotcha. All right. I'm there with you.
Well, there's my homework.
I have to admit, I would be very curious and very interested to see, like, what would the result be if the characters in Picard have to make the decision to cause the eugenics wars?
There's got to be some sort of tie-in, because normally what would be in Q's character would be to create a paradox that would end up getting the result that we wanted anyway, and just taking us through a kerfuffle mess of shenanigans and whatever. But Q is deliberately trying to do it. And to answer anyone's question that might be watching this, hello to the 2 people that are watching it. If they're like, well, why doesn't Q just snap his fingers and just undo the timeline? He can't. That apparently there are limits to his powers right now. There's limits.
Mm-hmm.
Saw that about 2 episodes ago in episode 4. He tried to snap his fingers as soon as he saw Renee. And then
that was unfortunate.
That was unfortunate, which means he couldn't do anything. So,
all right, Marco, I'm going to need more than a yo. I'm going to need more than a yo, my man.
What's up, Marco? How you doing, buddy?
I'm still waiting on you let me try it again. To derail this particular podcast episode. Man, y'all, like, words are hard today.
You know, can we just give a shout out to every time that, aside from Insurrection, to every time that Jonathan Frakes directs a Trek show or movie? Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
I know, like we're seriously gonna have to start picking up some of your swag so that we can, like, parade Entertainment Rants the towel as it goes by.
But look at this. Like, these were some photos that I got off of Jerry Ryan's Facebook, and oh my goodness, I'm loving his shirt. I'm loving that they're still doing it COVID safe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is double, triple masked, and I'm here for it. Like, this is great. Here's another shot. There's what is the actress's name that plays as Rafi?
Michelle.
Michelle. So we got Jerry and Michelle, and this is, oh my god, that dress is so powerful. It's just great. I just love it. And this is gonna sound weird, but I'm glad that Seven didn't have a strong presence in this particular episode, because it's giving us room to give character development to Girardi's character. And, well, now the Queen and Girardi combined. So I don't know how you want to interchange that. And I also love the fact that we have finally addressed the pronouns issues with the Borg and individuality. Like, the Queen literally, in the most modern Trek way, said, did you just assume my gender? Did you just assume my pronouns? It's we. Because now we are together, which makes it clear that when I'm by myself, it's I. But when we're together, it's we. Get it together.
That is how grammar works.
That is how, yeah. And this allows
put that out there. Also, I mean, is anybody else really loving Orla Brady? I'm not wild about her accent that she's adopted, but I'm really loving her Talon.
Yeah, I was picking up on the accent, or her trying to do that accent.
Who?
So Talon, obviously, like, the actress herself is Irish, like profoundly Irish.
Yeah.
And if you listen, you can actually hear that the American accent that she's trying to do breaks a lot.
Right. Yeah, it slips a little. Yeah,
I mean, accent work is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, fair play.
Oh, it's definitely hard.
Accent work is hard. So, I mean, mad props to her for doing that. And, as an additional way, you think I won't. You think I won't, Marco. Anyway, so I love that we're getting more of her. And I think we're also trying to develop a little bit more of what possible connection there could be between Laris and Talon. Because you notice at one point, Talon swears in Romulan.
I was gonna say, I was like, did you just speak Romulan? And I saw Picard look up just a little bit. Like, he caught that. Like now he.
I mean, the man's been learning how to speak Romulan now for how long?
Oh yeah, because it's like, I mean, it's basically, yeah. I don't know what's going on, which means that there's another. That's the good thing about this show. There's subplot upon subplot upon subplot upon subplot, and they are all juicy. They are all good. It's like they knew to give snippets. I feel like they took a dry erase board. And they said, we're going to give one nugget here on this episode, one nugget here on this episode. And each episode, depending on which subplot, will determine how many nuggets we're going to give them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just written. This was calculated, because there's a pattern to this. and I'm here for it, and I love it. But the only thing that pissed me off, I was getting used to the 55-minute long episodes. This bitch was 36, and I was not happy. I was like, now I was gonna give Trek a pass because back then you had 26 episodes, but they were roughly 25 to 30 minutes each. So we were getting 10 to 13 episodes here per season, but they were almost an hour long. And I was okay with that. I was okay. I was like, okay, whatever. At least it looks like a movie, and I'm here for it. Now they done lowered it, and I'm like, this. All I know is this: the next one better be mid-season finale. That's all I know. That's all I know, because this one wasn't a major episode. It was an incline episode, one of those build-up episodes where it's like, oh yeah, because we have to understand. Well, of course you understand, but I'm saying it to the audience. You have to understand. The Borg Queen is loose in 21st century Earth right now, which means, in theory, the events of First Contact, as we've seen it before the Enterprise changed it, could unfold. Now we know that it won't because season 3 is on the way. But I'm just saying, like, yo, this is some bullshit. You gotta get the hell out of there. Shoot, my mom would say, shoot that bitch. Not that it would work, because nanoprobes are nanoprobes. So I mean,
yeah, no. At this point, God only knows what's replicating inside of Jurati at this particular juncture.
What do you think the plans are for the Borg Queen? What do you think is going to go for the Borg Queen?
Well, I think she's for sure managed to get herself some legs. Like that was an interesting discussion between Jurati and the Borg Queen, when basically Jurati very clearly indicates that this was part of an agreement that she had with the Borg Queen, and that she was taking the Borg Queen and allowing her to occupy her, I guess,
like a parking space,
as a way to make sure that they still had access to the being that could do the split-second calculations that would get them home.
Yeah, they still need it.
This is true.
Yeah.
And it might very well be so that the Queen does have every intention of taking them back to 24th century as we know it, because let's think about it. Right now, the best you can do, people, and arguably so, that's what nanoprobes do, but it's like you don't have Borg technology. You have 21st century cell phone driven radioactive smoking little
Can we
green.
briefly talk about how that doesn't matter? Did you notice that the Borg Queen, even without all of her augmentations, just occupying Agnes Jurati's body, was able to cause a power surge and shut off the lights?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point, because she did give me some Skynet vibes.
A little bit.
Yeah. I guess you could go to a military facility, put in some tentacles inside it,
but we know what her goals are. She's already. She wanted legs, which she now has.
She has. Now she wants the ship,
and she wants the ship.
Because once she gets the ship, and then the crew, I mean, of course they know Jurati's missing, but they don't know what's going on. But here's the thing:
between the two of them, I
wanted to believe that Picard would still be able to hear it, but now he can't for two reasons. One, he's in coma. Two, he's in a synthetic body.
Right.
Which means he can't hear the collective anymore. His heart is gone. Gone. So, like, otherwise,
anybody else in that line, like, how many transplants has he had?
All of them.
All of them.
I can't wait to find out, or for Talon to find out what she's going to find inside of Picard's brain when she goes in there.
She's going to learn the truth.
And how did she know? How did she know to call it a mind meld? Though she used that term mind meld.
I noticed that as well.
She knows mind meld. She knows Romulan. She apparently has been there for 24 years, but we don't know the age of these Watchers or if they do age. Clearly, they're mortal in some way, but I don't know what their age is like. I almost compare them to the Elorians, because the Elorians are listeners and these beings are Watchers.
So Gary Seven was a supervisor, much like Talon. The point he makes in Assignment Earth is that his ancestors were kidnapped from the Earth, several thousand years ago, and he's now been part of this breeding process, basically, to create these supervisory characters. For example, he's even immune to Spock's magic Vulcan nerve pinch. Man, y'all, again. Words are hard, and I haven't even had that much wine. I'm struggling today. Just struggling.
I mean, it happens. It happens because it's like I really wish I could drink right now, but
my guess is that Talon, at least to her knowledge at this juncture, is completely human.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. What do you think she's going to find in there when she goes in Picard's brain or psyche in his coma?
I think she's going to find out that Picard's mother, because this is crazy, because there's so many like gothic story elements in Picard's backstory that came out of effing nowhere, up to and including the terrible Oliver Twist hat that he's rocking in every single flashback. My guess is that Picard's mother loses her battle with depression. And my guess is that at some point she ends up a danger to herself and others. And so they take her away and possibly hospitalize her. And I don't think she gets out of the hospital either, because Picard makes a comment about how people sometimes don't survive. In Fly Me to the Moon.
I'm trying to let go of the fact that I'm halfway through this book. I don't know if you can read.
No.
The autobiography of Jean-Luc Picard.
So, obviously, this is not canon, but it's. I mean, I'm just saying, because when I read the book, and I made it past. I'm at the part where he just made lieutenant, and he's kind of like in the lower decks phase of his career. Well, early on in the book, it mentioned that he was abused, but not by his mother, but by his father. And not physically abused so much, but more like mentally and verbally abused. Because being told you're not good enough, you're never going to be good enough, which driven him to be academic, to be athletic, to join Starfleet. He joined Starfleet to run away from his family.
I think that's pretty clear, and that's something I think that they've maintained. That's the whole business of the look up, right? Like look for a way to break your ties to this. And the problem is that as a result, he's never dealt with that trauma. Because the images that we keep seeing in these flashbacks are of, her being dragged away. There's also a jailer with chains. So that's why I think we're dealing with a hospitalization situation, because he was too young really to process what was going on.
So it's probably like a repressed memory, you think?
I don't know that it's so much a repressed memory as it's a memory that's been combined with his child mind creating imagery that his child mind could understand.
Well, I think I mentioned last time we talked about this, that now that he's in augmented body, he has access to all of his memories, including the ones when he was a child, right?
Yes.
It's sort of like computer access to it. Whereas us in our, carbon-based life form bodies, we struggle to remember things from when we were children. But he has access to it because he's a machine or an augment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I wonder how true that's going to turn out to be. Did anybody else also enjoy the fact that the defibrillator apparently behaved so strangely that it kind of threw her off?
Shorted out the whole room.
Yeah.
Just the whole room. Like, wow.
Like, whoops. Yeah.
And then she's like, "Who are you?"
I mean, which fair, right? Like, I mean, she has to notice that something's good, that something weird's going on, because he should not have come away with that with just a psychosomatic cardiac event.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. If she was smart enough and strong enough and brave enough to build that clinic from the ground in secret, then what does that say about her intellect and her mentality? She's
I don't
not
think it was in secret. I think she builds it from the ground and basically goes into that community and then builds it as a clinic, and then also takes on cases for the no papers crowd.
right. But it also lets you know she's not stupid.
No.
None of the people that we've encountered were stupid. None of them. Lily was not stupid. The chick from Voyager was not stupid. This chick is not stupid. They were not stupid. And can we talk about how I personally like it, but is it just me, or is it always women that we run back into in the 20th and 21st century when we do time travel episodes? I'm here for it, but I mean, Marie, can you speak to that a little bit? Like, why do you think we chose this lady to be the person we come in contact with, the one character? Like, why? Like, what's going on? Like
why Renee Picard?
What determines what character type we come back into when we do time travel episodes? Like, it's always been this way since like TOS. Like when Kirk went back, and of course
he runs into Edith Keeler. In TOS, that had everything to do with basically creating a romantic liaison, and also the things that Edith Keeler was doing were considered more feminine values and virtues than they would have traditionally masculine virtues, right?
And they start movement.
Well, but she hasn't started a movement at this point. She's literally running a soup kitchen.
Right.
So, and that's definitely like tied to concepts of nurturing that you're not really going to see in 60s television associated with male figures.
Right.
So that's Edith Keeler. Going forward, I think a lot of it has to do with the interest in creating these sort of romantic entanglements. Not so much with the Sarah Silverman character. I'm not exactly sure why they chose a Sarah Silverman character, other than she fits into a very specific stereotype.
Yeah.
All she needs is like 10 cats, and she's good to go.
I mean,
seriously, like the Sarah Silverman character could have been Agnes Dorati's grandmother.
It could have been.
And Roy's like, oh, whoa. And then going forward, now we're dealing with a much more, feminist aligned Star Trek in modern Star Trek. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we suddenly have a lot more women in the writer's room and women directing. For example, do you remember the head scientist who yanked Sung's funding in Fly Me to the Moon?
Yeah, her last name was Rozhenko.
No, her buddy sitting next to her was Rozhenko. She's somebody else. Oh. But interestingly enough, that's Leah Thompson. Leah Thompson, who played Lorraine in all of the Back to the Future movies. So in herself, she's kind of... But she also has directed a number of Picard episodes.
Yeah, the last two before this, I think.
Mm-hmm. I had no idea that was her.
Yeah,
so we're seeing a lot more women being involved in the creation process. And so I think, that is now speaking to us seeing more women, more characters of color, more diversity in the character types that we're interacting with. Because 90s Trek does trend male pretty hard.
Yeah, initially, yeah.
So 90s and 2000s for sure. So now we've got a very different kind of group. I think Teresa is a Teresa because she's giving Rios this romantic entanglement, which I think is going to become a plot point in later episodes in the season.
Because he's fallen in love with her.
Yeah, or crush or lust. I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily full-fledged love at this stage.
Yeah, because I don't want him to fall into that same love.
Edith Keeler thing.
Yeah,
Edith Keeler thing where she has to die.
We don't need another Edith Keeler. We're good to go.
Because Rios is already messed up in the head from the 25th century alone. So, like, I'm just calling it as it is. Dude was good. I was finna say gooch. He was good. On the what's it called? The Stargazer until the along, which we knew the Borg knew. At least now we know that the Borg knew something was coming. Like whatever time wave was approaching, they were like, you know what? Screw all of this. We're not going to kill you, but we got to talk to Picard because something is coming. There's no other way we can tell you. And the closest thing we can say to you is look up. I feel like that the season finale or the mid-season finale is probably going to be named Look Up. Like, because they've been doing a lot of things with these titles that have more relevance to the actual storyline, whereas others is like, I mean, they do too. I mean, but
I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of chuckle a little bit when they actually start playing "Fly Me to the Moon" in the episode of the same title.
That is so Elon Musk. Did anyone catch the fact that Adam Soon was driving a Tesla?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, bro, you must be friends with him or something, or that must be Zefram Cochrane's father or grandfather or something. I don't know. Well, father probably at this point. So I there's a lot going on. But again, it's one of those incline episodes. It's one of those build-up episodes.
But also, can we talk about the Easter eggs that we saw in this episode? I love that the Spike shuttle is actually one of the shuttles we see in the Enterprise.
Oh, so they do. Okay, I thought that looked familiar, but I didn't want to like.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah.
Yep, that's where that is, and you'll notice that they make a reference to a Dr. Jemison giving a speech. They're referring to Dr. Mae Jemison, who is an actual honest-to-God astronaut who ends up
being
on TNG and has since done a tremendous amount advocating for persons of color to get into STEM and science research and space exploration. So I was really, really excited to see them making a reference to her. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's great because I didn't catch on that today. What other Easter eggs were there that we've seen? Because we've seen in previous episodes, but in this episode in particular, I'm still overwhelmed with the excitement of it all. Roy, what do you think? Have you noticed any other Easter eggs?
No, like I said, I was watching it on my phone. Didn't get to catch a whole lot other than just the plot. So I was lucky I got that far. But I will say that Rios doesn't like to get attached. I wanted to say this before because he watched two captains die. One of them being, of course, Picard at the end of season 1, and then his former captain. Mm-hmm. So him getting attached to this doctor, might not happen. So we might not have a Edith Keeler situation.
And we have a lot of that kind of developing, right? Because that's very much what's going on with Seven, because Seven is unwilling to get attached in quite the same way. Whereas we've got Rafi, who, despite coming off as someone who's not going to accept attachment, once she attaches herself to you, holds on with both hands. Because she really struggles. I mean, that watching that sort of play out in this episode, not so much one of two, but Fly Me to the Moon. Watching that play out, it was very obvious that Seven's coping mechanisms and Rafi's coping mechanisms actually line up with their respective triggers almost beautifully. And so watching them navigate that drama in Fly Me to the Moon was pretty fantastic. We got a little bit more of that sort of character development for Rafi in this episode. Did anybody else notice Rafi's refusing to take a drink? She's refusing to take, a a hit off of Rios's cigar because she knows that she is an addict.
And we noticed right after that she has like a brief hallucination / vision of
this is the second hallucination of Elnor, who also looked pretty swanky in his tuxedo.
I'm still mad at him. I'm still mad at him. I don't care. I don't care. Like, no. Like if I ever become a regular, which I will, I will not go to the gates of St. Peter until I become a series regular on a Star Trek show. Okay, period. For at least 7 seasons. And I better not see his face. Like, I swear for God, I will Will Smith him so hard.
Fan territory, my friend. I'm gonna need you to calm down and possibly walk a little bit off that cliff, my friend.
I'm so serious because it's just like you cheated on me and you haven't even met me yet to say I do. Do you know what that does to me? Now I can't enjoy Picard with my friends because every time I see your face, I have to console Raffi because bless her heart. Roy's just like I'm
also starting to wonder if there's something more to the hallucinations, that they're not necessarily just the creations of Raffi's mind, because Raffi hasn't really done anything or shown any other evidence of someone experiencing a psychotic break,
unless Q is causing it.
Why would he care?
I don't know.
Why would he care? He hasn't touched anybody but Picard.
These images are way too specific to be hallucinations,
and
they're way too vague to be visions. Could they
be? And you'll remember that she is, in fact, she's carrying his medallion. So I'm starting to wonder if Romulans have a Katra. And that, much like the Katra arc that Surak had, God, I have been so nervous this episode, by the way.
You're really diving for this one. You're really diving for this one. Please continue.
All right. Ah, man. Like, I'm going to have a tinfoil hat.
Manny would be proud. Like, okay, so Romulans, let's supposedly have a Katra who is passed on to Elnor, and he has a medallion that probably is his home thing, or I don't know, like what a dog sniffs when he's looking for someone, kind of like that, but like more extra.
I was actually wondering if the medallion itself had something to do with it, because like we know that Katras can be stored in physical objects. That was the whole point of the Katra arc that they end up using for Surak.
It's
you can't walk around with another random dude in your head all the time, even if you're Vulcan, because eventually you'd run out of Vulcans that are unoccupied.
I mean, we've seen in plenty of Trek episodes of consciousness being transferred into inanimate objects.
So if Romulans have a Katra,
like Harry Potter, yes.
Right? So if Romulans have a Katra, it's very possible that he imbued either the medallion or also tried to transfer it to Raffi unconsciously or something.
Well, were they holding hands or anything? Were there? Because I know Raffi went to go get.
She is in physical contact with him. I don't know that we know that. Well, we don't actually know. Did we decide if Commander O was fully Romulan or was half Vulcan?
Oh, it's half and half.
Okay.
It's half and half, yeah.
So, because we've never seen a Romulan engage in a mind meld, but that...
The closest one is Tarina.
But if they... was your ex-wife...
Hey. Inanimate projects like my ex-boyfriend.
So, but if that's floating around, I mean, we've never seen any evidence that they are, but we have known so little about Romulans comparatively that it's entirely possible that it just never came up that they have latent telepathic powers the same way Vulcans do, because they evolved from a common ancestor.
It's a stretch, but it could work. And it could work.
I mean, I'm sure Michael would tell me that I'm somewhere around a half marathon here, but I think there's actually enough reason to speculate.
I mean,
we're not quite at danger slime mold.
Yeah. Roy, do you think that this theory is plausible?
I like it a lot. I'm already like digging in my head going, it could be possible.
What I've noticed about our theories, and this is going to sound like a little big-headed of me in a Trekker's Delight sense, every time we come up with this awesome, out-of-the-world theory that's 10 out of 10, that's perfect, it's always less and less when it comes out on screen. Oh, I mean, that's okay too, but Marie's idea was better.
You could be a writer for Star Trek. There you go.
I'm telling you, I'm here for it. Marie needs to be in that room. That's all I need to know.
If they have a season 4, you can write for it.
I said I will not join this. I will not donate my $100 million unless Marie, whatever her last name is, at the next time will go into that writer's room and be. She doesn't have to be the actual writer, but she has to lead the team. She has to. I'm telling you, her kids will be teenagers at that point, and we'll be here for the new wave of Star Trek shows, and I will be happy. I will be in heaven. Like that's literally all I want. I could die and go to heaven as soon as I complete my tour on Star Trek, and I'm good. Why am I like this, Marie?
So many reasons. So many reasons, William. And we only have like 8 minutes left. We can get into
what was everyone's favorite scene or favorite moment that intrigued you the most in this episode?
I liked when the two Picards were talking.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
That was beautiful.
Yeah,
that was pretty fantastic.
She was like, "Why do I feel like I know you?"
And he does it so. It was good to see.
And he didn't even know what he was going to say. And he didn't know what he was going to say. He just kind of winged it. But then she opened the door and talked about fear. And that was his in, was her talking about fear. He says, well, what do you have to be afraid of and everything?
I like how he pretty much acknowledged depression, but he also mentioned the difference in what fear truly is and how we cannot afford to give into fear. We cannot let we acknowledge what depression is, but we cannot let that be an excuse to give into fear. Or something. He didn't exactly put it into those words, but but it was when he kind of like stopped Renee and said, "No, fear is fear," and I was like, "Huh."
Well,
you know what I'm trying to say?
She was trying to read more into fear than it was, because she was making the argument that because she was so afraid that it meant that she wasn't ready for this. And that's not true. But it's just not, because as Picard says, fear is just fear. Fear is an awareness of risk and, a discomfort with doing something new. There are all kinds of root causes, but it's just fear. That's the thing about depression, is it lies. Your own brain kind of lies to you about your worth and what you're capable of. And that's what Q was capitalizing on when he was manipulating Renee.
Yeah, absolutely. Marie, what was your favorite scene?
I've been thinking about that, and it's very hard, because on the one hand, I really, really love everything that Alison Pill did, alternating between the Borg Queen and Agnes, and how Agnes was really kind of, at one point she's excited, and then just at that moment, a very real, she's riding the high of the endorphins of success, that at that moment, the Borg Queen just cuts it out from her and takes over. That was hard to watch, because one of the things that we've been seeing, and I get it, like Michael Greer is not necessarily wrong when he talks about being angry with Jurati. But one of the things we've seen in season 2 is that Jurati has had more agency. She's been less a pawn until this point. And it's really frustrating. It was really frustrating to me to watch that happen.
I feel intrigued with Jurati's character a lot because it's like I hated what she did or what circumstances led her to what she did in season 1. But I feel like in season 2, other than the veterans that have come back, Jurati is the most interesting character. Mm-hmm. She's the most interesting. Even before the queen possessed her, I don't think assimilate is the right word right now. I think it's possession, which we've learned in the family episode in TNG, that Picard's consciousness was there and he fought hard and hard and hard and he couldn't break out. Now Jurati's experiencing that exact same thing, at least what we're about to see in episode 7. My favorite scene was, it's hard because it was hard. It was every single scene between Jurati and the Borg, the dialogue, even the moment.
Who are we tonight, Agnes? I like it. There is no we. I believe that's a proper pronoun for when one shares one's body with one's new friend.
And I like that.
You're not a friend, you're a house guest.
I mean, and I like that because it's like it kind of plays on like the modernization of, hi, my name is William, he, him, or others that might choose to use she, them, he, them, they, them, he, her, whatever pronouns. And that's fine. And I kind of chuckled a little bit that the queen was like, it's we. Okay. Just I know you're new here and I know you're a recruit. I'm going to make you the queen. You just don't know it yet, but it's we. Okay. Like,
yeah.
I really thought of, I see the relationship that's developing between them as, an abusive romantic relationship. The queen has been working very hard to isolate Jurati from her support system and to emphasize that she needs to rely on the queen to provide all of this other support that she's not getting anywhere else, and basically trying to convince Jurati that she can't exist outside of this whatever it is they're doing. And currently now we have the queen in total control. And there's a pretty powerful metaphor here.
Yeah, it is pretty powerful. And I think it really struck me, even though villains typically lie all the time, I do believe the Borg was telling the truth when they told Jurati that you're in every universe, you're alone. And
which is just blatantly not true. Because that's part of it. Because this is what Agnes is afraid of. She's afraid of being alone. She's afraid of being this fifth wheel. And the thing is she's not.
We know she's not. But she doesn't know that. So her truth in her
that's why I think of this as being a terrible abusive relationship, because like the queen is in fact trying to convince Agnes of something that's not true. And in a way that takes away Agnes's power and agency in the relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is something that just pops into my head like more.
I mean, as it should, because it's like, I don't want to see Agnes sacrifice herself like Sigourney Weaver did when she had the queen literally inside her in Alien 3. I don't know if y'all have seen that yet, but okay.
Who do you think you're talking to?
Huh? Oh, what? Okay.
Of course we've seen Alien 3.
Okay. So it's like, because it's like typically now, in just with the exception of Discovery, usually what we see in every major in season, someone dies or someone goes away. I like Jurati.
Yeah,
I want her to be able to find, because here's the thing, and then because we got 30 seconds left.
And I got something to
Can I
say.
make one comment before we go, and then
Yeah.
Roy?
And then I got something.
Okay.
I gotta say, like, I'm kind of bummed that the Queen has taken over Girardi because I've really loved Annie Wershing's Queen, and like we're not going to see as much of her because she's Girardi. I'm just sad. All right, Roy, it's to you.
Yeah. And then real quick, I like how we're seeing that sometimes you have to find not just your individuality from the collective, but your individuality from nothingness.
Yeah.
And Girardi is trying to find her individuality from nothingness, whereas anyone who's coming from the Borg is trying to find their individuality from the collective. It goes in both ways. You know, like, can you find that perfect zero? The Borg sees a need, and she kind of did feel it, quite literally. She is not alone now. She's possessed, but she ain't alone. She possessed.
All right, Roy, take us out on something not possession.
Yeah. What did you say about Rios?
So I'm going to go out here on a limb. Actually, this is about Rios. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Star Trek fans, they like the hopeful, optimistic, futuristic message that Star Trek gives, right? Versus the apocalyptic sci-fi that a lot of people like to watch as well. So Rios did something. He made us appreciate the time that we live in, even though things are kind of screwed up right now with everything that's going on in the world. He made us appreciate the time that we live in now. He said, 21st century Earth isn't what I thought it would be. Everything is so intense with all the cars and the honking and the shouting. It's dirty. There's music everywhere, and the food's amazing. And he liked that cigar, and he just really was making us feel almost glad that we live in this time, you know? Even though we as Star Trek fans, we yearn for that future, that optimism, but we're stuck here. We're grounded, and he kind of made me at least appreciate the time that we live in now.
That's awesome, and that is a fantastic way to transition out.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's definitely some Riker and Tom Paris vibes, with Tom Paris always loving 20th and 21st century stuff.
Yeah.
That was good. Today was a really good episode, guys. Thank you for coming on, and thank you to the two people who just happen to still be watching it. So, yay! Thanks, Michael and Marco, for commenting. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah,
and we will see you next week for Picard Inception.
Deuces.
Now, again, I'm going to say this again because we're near the end of our show. If you are our allies, we are not talking to you. We are not talking to you. This does not... Okay, we're not talking to you. Stop trying to take our and make it your goddamn business. It ain't got nothing to do with you. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
Our experience of grief independently.
Bruh.
Yes.
I love that they're in the comments.
So much is like, I'm just reading the comments.
Yeah. They should brought that child out. It's such a good point, Will. God, that's such a good point. And he's really thought about it too. You should be here. Will, get over here.
I thought he had a girlfriend on Insta. It's been ages since I've mucked about, but
Okay, moving on. Let's move on.
yeah.